Today's video is going to be on what I'm entitling it as the eternal flame of awareness. Now, I say this because awareness is a hot, white fire that, when put up to identities, ego, fake, false selves that we think ourselves to be, it immediately burns it up. It is most necessary to tap into the reality of what is, what we are, what the presence is that holds all experience together. And that is what is beyond concept, beyond mind, thought, idea, even beyond emotion, beyond the narrative, beyond the story altogether. Now, we live in a body, we think we are a mind, and we especially think that we're the ego identities that we are in all of the different contexts of our experience in life. And there is an experience where, when the commitment to be source awareness, to be the unlimited source, the unbounded pure awareness, that is the source of all creation, when that commitment is made, when that decision is made to be the true self, the ego is going to go through a process of elimination and integration. Here's what I mean by that. The elimination process is not that we completely eliminate ego, but that we completely incinerate in the hot, white, hot fire of awareness, completely incinerate all attachments that are along the story of our false sense of self. And the reintegration comes in where we recognize the utility, the usefulness, and the practicality of using our ego in different situations and different contexts, all while not being attached, operating from unlimited source space awareness, and directly choosing deliberately in each moment whatever identity we decide to choose for that moment, and completely being free as source from any attachment or awareness. Source has no stories. Source doesn't have a narrative. Source doesn't have an attachment to anything. Source is pure, unbounded, clear awareness. The pure allowing of everything to unfold in every single moment that occurs. Now, in the process of dealing with the ego, being able to tap into powerful states of the ego, empowered identities, empowered beliefs, in the exploration of that, and in the integration of that, and the solidification of that, we must deal with the dross of the limitations the ego has created and perpetuated for itself. All of the narratives that perpetuate an idea of limitation, an idea of lack, and an idea of scarcity, an idea of incapability. Any concepts along those lines of limitation must be absolutely obliterated in the light of pure awareness. And they must be transcended. And one of the things, in order to really live in that space, is to be able to command your attention in every single moment. And I am still on the journey, in the path of noticing when my attention slips in an undisciplined moment, into unawareness, unconsciousness. It slips right back into limited identity patterns, right? Limited beliefs, limited stories, right? And it perpetuates these narratives that don't really support the infinite nature of what I actually am, what we actually are. And it's very, very, very easy when we're undisciplined and we're not on a path of self-mastery and commanding the attention to slip and then to believe all the bullshit the mind says. And this is what I mean by the eternal flame of awareness, is that this fire of awareness, and I recognize that it is no thingness, nothingness. I recognize that it is beyond all that, even the idea of fire. And I only use that to illustrate what actually happens and what it does. Holding identity to the flame, the eternal flame of awareness, God consciousness, God awareness, God source being. Holding it, holding identities, holding the ego to the flame of that eternal, bright, fiery infiniteness that never wanes, that never gets put out. You're going to experience what is called the shadow self. In the shadow is all the repressed, contracted energy of limitation, bullshit stories of not good enough, not worthy, whatever it is. And then being able to experience as well when the ego doesn't get its way, when the ego doesn't get what it wants. And then being able to command attention in every single present moment with a furious command away from, out of that dense 3D story of ego and commanding it into the light, pure spaciousness of the eternal flame of awareness. This is not a path that is easy. The easiest path to take is to play the ego games all over again and to bounce around from trying to avoid experiencing limitation and uncomfortability and then chasing and pursuing in a desperate attempt to be fulfilled all the promises of happiness and wholeness that the ego falsely provides. That's an easy choice for most people, right? It's a slipping back into the matrix, wanting the woman in the red dress, betraying yourself and humanity for what we actually are, for the stake and the riches. And I mean that metaphorically, if you've ever watched The Matrix. When a being makes a commitment to be the source, the actual source of what we are, beyond it, beyond all the bullshit, this is the training ground. We walk through the valley of the shadows of death. We walk through the fires of our own self-created hells with a gasoline suit on, willingly allowing ourselves to be ignited by the unlimited love of awareness, the acceptance of everything, the pure allowance. And in that space of recognition, when we recognize our limitlessness beyond all the stories that we tell and the stories that we perpetuate that we think are real, we can command the life force, which is our attention, command it into whatever it is we decide in each moment. And it is a deliberate, conscious decision in each moment to be source, to be awareness, to be space, to be that which is beyond name, that which is beyond concept, beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond the stories, beyond the emotions even. Only identities can experience thoughts and beliefs and concepts and ideas and emotions. Only identities can have experience. Source doesn't have experience. Source is where experience is had from the viewpoint of an identity. Now don't get me wrong, some identities are necessary. They're powerful. Some of them allow people to create magnificent wonders in the world, like Jeff Bezos and Steve Jobs and all these high achievers in the world. But make no mistake about it, unless you make the furious commitment to self, the self, you will be like a ping pong ball being tossed across the board, back and forth between desire and resist emotions. I don't want this, I don't want that, I want more of this, I want more of that. And in that allowing space of awareness, none of that is real, none of it exists. And we recognize the futility and the fictitious, illusory nature of the sense of self, or selves that we consider ourselves to be at times. In the purity of silence is where the truth of being and embodying God exists. So this video touch on those things and to dispel the legends and the myths around what enlightenment is, what spirituality is. A lot of it is fluffy affirmation, happy-go-lucky, overtly positive bullshit. And the reality is any true path of enlightenment and connection is going to require you walking through the flames of unbounded pure awareness, where you will experience the detachment from the narrative altogether. It's not an easy journey, and it's not for the faint of heart. It's easy to read books, go to conferences, put sticky note affirmations everywhere and think that's what it is. To try to take up a witchcraft practice and be a witch and do spells and get all mystical and get all fucking woo-woo on it. Super easy, right? It's great deflection, great distraction from devotion to the one, the pure, the one, the limitless, the ineffable. And even these words are insufficient to try to capture what it is the self actually is. What I do is I only point. I don't wake anybody up. That's a decision all on your own. All I do is point. And if you are brave enough to look, you will discover the self that is beyond all the fucking bullshit stories. Commit to that flame. Let that ego be burned up. And let the glorious, magnificent, radiant light of the self shine forth. Because that's the only eternality that is actually true. Carry on.